Hi everyone, and welcome to our story time. Today we're going to be reading a Jigsaw Jones mystery. This book is called The Case of the Mummy Mystery by James Preller. This book is illustrated by John Spears and cover illustration by R.W. Alley. Didn't they do a fantastic job? All right. Chapter 1. Guess he'll go eat worms. I'm a detective and I solve mysteries. Some cases are nice and easy. Somebody loses a cat, I find the cat, they pay me, and everybody's as happy as a bug in a rug. Then there are tough cases, the cases that wiggle and turn like a worm on a hook. The mysteries that are all full of surprises. This one of those cases. I thought it was going to be a simple job, but one thing's for sure, I never expected mummy trouble. That's right, I said mummy, not mommy. Mummy. Mommies I can handle. Mummies are a different story. A mummy is a walking zombie. He's a guy covered with bandages who looks like he jumped off a tall building without a parachute. He's a guy who was dead and buried but then came back to walk the earth. That kind of mummy. Yeesh. It all started with a dare. At least that's the way Joe Pignato told it. We were in my office, a treehouse in my backyard. As usual, Joey Pignato's mouth was moving. But I couldn't believe what my ears were hearing. I glanced at my best friend and partner. Mila Ye. Her arms were folded across her stomach. Her face looked pale, like she was going to be sick. As Joey talked, Mila's eyes blinked open and closed, like the flashing lights of a Christmas tree. Mila couldn't believe what Joey was saying either. I interrupted Joey, speaking slowly and carefully. Hold on, Joey. Let me make sure I've got all the facts. I read from my detective journal. You are telling us that you are going to eat a worm? Joey's head bobbed up and down enthusiastically. For $1, he added, smiling proudly. For $1? I repeated. Well, that's not something you see every day. I scratched the back of my neck. Are you going to eat it plain or with ketchup? Joey's eyes got wide. Great idea, he exclaimed. I never thought of ketchup. It's something to think about, I told him. Mila shot me a look. I ignored her and continued. Are you going to swallow the worm whole or chew on it? Joey bit his lip. Don't know, he said. Depends on the worm. Mila looked at us like we were both nuts. But I had to admit, I sort of like the idea of Joey Pignato eating a worm. Like I said before, it's not something you see every day. Wait a minute, Mila said. Who was paying you the $1? Bobby Solofisky, Joey answered. When are you eating the worm? She asked. Friday, Joey said. That's Halloween, I said. Joey nodded. It sure was. Mila just shook her head. Don't you think that eating a worm is sort of gross? Joey shrugged happily. He didn't particularly think so. So, why do you need a detective? I said. Joey leaned close. I don't want to get cheated, he whispered. I don't trust Bobby. He's trouble. I wouldn't trust Bobby Soluski either. But then again, I wouldn't eat a worm for $1. I guess there are two kinds of people in the world. Some eat worms. The others, well, they just don't. Picky eaters, I guess. I can make sure you don't get cheated, I assured him. But I make $1 a day. Can you afford me? Joey stared hard into my eyes. Would I eat a worm if I had that kind of money, he asked. I saw his point. Joey Pignatino was flat broke. Okay, Joey, I said, you can owe me. So that's how this whole mess started. The mummy didn't come into it until later on. Chapter 2. Not Hungry. That night before dinner, my brothers Daniel and Nicholas were messing around in the playroom while I did my spelling homework. I had to write each word 5 times and put them in ABC order. Their words were black candy, children, frightened, ghost, frightened, Halloween, pumpkin, October, pumpkin, spooky, treat. Do you think you can put those words in ABC order? Go ahead and give it a try. While I worked, I listened to my brothers talk. Every Halloween, Daniel said to Nicholas, he prowls through town, causing trouble everywhere he goes. I looked up from my homework. Who does? I asked. And he eats stray cats, Daniel said. Who does? I asked again. And he loves mischief, Daniel said. Guys, I yelled. Who loves mischief? Don't tell him, Nicholas said. He'll have bad dreams. Tell me what? I demanded. Nothing, Daniel answered. Please, I pleaded. What are you guys talking about? Daniel sighed. Okay, but you have to promise not to tell Mom and Dad. I promise, I said. Do you promise on a stack of Batman comic books? Nicholas asked. I promise, I repeated. Now tell me, what are you guys talking about? Daniel looked around cautiously. Not here, he said, down in the basement. Suddenly, my mother called out, Dinner's almost ready. Theodore, it's your turn to set the table. Mom, I complained. Please don't call me Theodore. Everybody calls me Jigsaw. My dad came into the room. In a funny voice, he said, I don't care what you call me as long as you call me for dinner. Then he gave my mom a big sloppy kiss. Oh, brother. Daniel gave me a poke. After dinner, he whispered, in the basement. I smiled. Secrets are almost as much fun as mysteries. My mom set out a big steaming bowl of spaghetti and meat sauce. Joey Pignatino is going to eat a worm for $1, I announced. That's very nice, my dear, my mother said. Please pass the spaghetti, Billy, I continued. I wouldn't eat a worm no matter how much you paid me. I'm proud of you, son, my father mumbled. I stared down at my plate of spaghetti. I think Joey is crazy. Worms are so slippery. And slimy and gross. I put down my knife and fork, sort of like, spaghetti. Jigsaw, my sister, Hillary protested. Gross me out the door. She spit out something into her napkin. Hey, my father said. No talk of worms at the dinner table. One by one, my brothers pushed their plates away. What's wrong? My mom asked. Billy frowned at me. Sorry, Mom, he said. I just don't feel hungry anymore. Me either, Daniel, Nicholas said. Hillary complained. All this talk about eating worms has spoiled my appetite, especially for spaghetti. Grams didn't seem to pay any attention. She just kept shoveling huge forkfuls into her mouth. Grams finally winked and said, Eat up, kids. These worms are delicious. Chapter 3, The Legend of the Mummy. An hour later, I followed Daniel and Nicholas down into the basement. My oldest brother, Billy, was already down there. He was rebuilding an old cart engine. His face was marked with a black grease. 1,000,000 different parts were laid out on newspaper. Billy looked up from unscrewing some kind of whatchamacallit. What's up? We are going to tell Jigsaw about the Halloween legend, Daniel explained. You know, the mummy. Billy nodded slowly, staring hard at Daniel. Oh, yeah, he said. The mummy. Don't you think it might scare him too much? I mean, he's only a pipsqueak. Am not, I protested. Daniel sighed. Okay. You know what a mummy is, right? Sure, I joked. He's like Frankenstein's cousin or nephew or something. They laughed at me. Hey, I'm kidding, I said. A mummy is a movie monster. He was in one of my puzzles, The Monsters of Hollywood. Daniel shook his head. Yeah, but this one is real, and he lives right here in town. Yeah, Billy said. The mummy rises from his wormy grave and comes alive every Halloween. Billy got up, arms outstretched, and walked stiffly across the room. He moaned and groaned. He tried to grab me by the throat, but I ducked out the way. Remember Mrs. Eastep's cat, Twinkles? Daniel asked. I remembered. Remember how it disappeared 2 years ago at Halloween? I still remembered. The mummy got it, Billy said. How do you know? I asked. Barney Fodstock saw it happen, Daniel said. Billy went on. And you know Mr. Riley, the old guy with white hair who lives on Charlie's Hill? His hair used to be jet black. So his hair turned completely white in one night, Billy said, because he saw the mummy and nearly died of fright. A chill ran down my spine, which was weird because I didn't really believe in mummies. But still, it was hard to know for sure. All right, we're going to save our page and make sure you come back tomorrow for our next story time to read chapter 4. It'll be called It's a Mystery. So we're going to find out more about this mummy. All right, make sure you tune in tomorrow for more story time. We'll see y'all then, and thanks for coming for today. Bye, everyone.